Elizabeth, thank you. Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. Ordinarily, I tell you that this is where right and left come to be reasonable. But you know what? That mandate is not enough anymore. The mandate really is to stop looking left and right and see what is right in front of our damn faces. Over the weekend, 5 million Americans protested, the largest single day of demonstrations in U.S. history. And we know why. On one level, it was a reaction to the Army's birthday / Trump's birthday bash. They called it the No Kings protest. And let me tell you what I call it. A high watermark for disunity. And I'm not saying I'm against the protest. It's a signature American blessing of our democracy. And I get the arguments against MAGA, against the president. I get the arguments on both sides. This battle of which is more toxic, however, is making us all sick. We have to see this battle to the bottom of which side is worse for what it is. It is killing this country. This is not hyperbole. This is not a hot take. We're killing ourselves. I've been doing this for a quarter century, and I have never seen us so vulnerable as we are right now. We have sunk to new levels of division, fueled very simply by partisan extremism. Left and right will say and do anything to gain advantage over the other side. We have normalized all the worst things: lies, misinformation, disinformation. Podcasters feign outrage for profit. Everything is exaggerated for effect all the time. It's now okay to say every election you lose is rigged. Every idea you don't like is radical or anti-American. You don't like the president? He's Hitler. You don't like ICE? They're Nazis. And more party people justify the need for any means necessary because the need for advantage is so dire. It matters now more than ever. It's never been this dangerous. And we don't get what we're doing to ourselves, but that's why we are where we are. We have created an atmosphere that is perfect for the worst of the fringe elements in our society to step up. And they have. Fundamentalists, disaffected, disenfranchised, sometimes detached from reality. And that's why we keep seeing people kill to advance their political agendas. This is where the party battle has taken us. And you can say our favorite words in partisan politics, yeah, but, because nobody wants to own their own shit. Nobody. Look, I own how seductive playing this game can be. I am trying very hard to expose it for you. And it is not easy, and it is not profitable. Not picking a side when that's all that matters is just an express route to ratings crises. And I don't care because I know what's happening is wrong. You want to see the evidence that pushed me to write what I wrote for right now? This picture. You see the look on this guy's face? This assassin? Does it seem familiar? Calm, the assuredness. Looks a lot like the embassy shooter, doesn't he? Elias Rodriguez. Remember the look on his face? How passive he was as he just sat there waiting? Or Luigi Mangione, assassinated a healthcare CEO. That calm, where they just kind of shouted out their manifesto, but they saw it coming and they were okay with it. Why? They believe they're doing the right thing. And I believe that these people find encouragement in what they see happening around them with our party politics. How else do you explain why in just the last 3 months, a man firebombed Governor Shapiro's home in Pennsylvania. Another man firebombed the GOP headquarters and a Tesla dealership in New Mexico. A man blew himself up at a fertility clinic in California. Another man lit old Jewish protesters on fire in Boulder, Colorado. Why do you think? Now we have the latest fundamentalist, this guy Belter. I used to not say the names of these people. But now not only does everybody say their names, but they're not even extraordinary. They're not even unusual. And as perverse as his actions, the reaction to him was just as perverse. What happened when we found out about this? Both parties and the media cared about one frickin' thing, and what was it? Which side did he belong to? Because all that matters is advantage, to use him as proof of what the other side is about. So at first, it was the right, loud and proud, talking about how he was appointed by a Democrat in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz, and this is the left, and we have to care, and Trump cared, and everybody cared. My feed was littered with people on the right saying, look at the left. A U.S. senator actually claimed that this man was a Marxist, a nice extreme buzzword, proof of the poison in our politics. But then what happened? All their concern, all the commentary, all the clickbait just evaporated in an instant when the assassin's roommate hit our screens.
Everyone's calling him a Democrat. He's not a Democrat. Because of this board thing he was on for Governor Walz, it wasn't to serve. He was just serving the community.
Did he talk much about Trump? And what did he say, if so?
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump. Do you like Trump? I like Trump.
And did he listen to any particular podcasts or TV shows or anything online that concerns you?
Well, you listen to InfoWars.
Look, here's the truth. If you thought I was about to say, nya, 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 to the right, this is on you, you're wrong. There is no win in this. We are all obviously losing as a country. The reason we are seeing acts of violence from emboldened extremists is because we have embraced extremism as our political culture. And instead of seeing what they all know is happening, we just continue to dig. That Utah Senator, Mike Lee, he knows he's wrong, and he just keeps going. Why? That's the game. Elon Musk, back to his old ways of getting stuff wrong, writes some stupid post about the left, trying to get back in Trump's good graces after he got kicked to the curb. That Belter's far left, and the left is a full-blown domestic terror organization. Nice and extreme. Clickbait, baby. Great. And then Lee retweets it. Fact. True. They're both wrong, and they're both part of the problem. Just be extreme. Just drive the outrage. And this is where it has gotten us. And the irony is, you know where the best opportunity is in politics right now? There is no margin in taking down the other side. It's done. There's nothing you can do to move the needle. The division is complete. Here's how you connect with the majority. Be anti-extremist. Don't feed it, fight it. That's what the majority wants. That's what the country needs. That's the opportunity. And you know what? Even the president, despite his past and how he has added to the fire, he could take that opportunity. But instead, he's decided to depend on what got us here, into this mess, playing with his signature wedge issue to get away from Belter, the assassin, back to immigration. Look, that's the only explanation that makes sense. Why would he go from his most recent revelation, the reasonableness of his position on immigration that changed? Not all illegal entrants are the same. Farmers and hotel people told him there are a lot of good people doing good for the community, even though they entered the wrong way. And he goes from that back down the road of extreme rhetoric about how the left is trying the great replacement of white people by letting in every illegal immigrant they can. Back to the extreme negativity. Why? Because that's his safe place. But that's what got us here. So Trump basically declared war on cities, saying ICE would focus there. And look, again, I've said it on this show. I'll say it many times. I have no problem saying it. This country voted to have immigration laws enforced, but they did not vote for what we're seeing right now. They did not vote for a deportation of every single person that you can find, no matter where they are, what school, what hospital, what community, no matter what they do, how they're loved, who they have here, what they mean to communities. That's not what they voted for. So I get that he's making a clear play to his base, but it's a distraction. It's a distraction from what's happening with the regime in Iran, with Israel. It's a distraction from Belter. And it is what is taking us into a danger zone. And I call it the game because both sides play it. Democrats openly play to socialism now. They're trying to drum up their own populist outrage to match MAGA. They support candidates who don't believe Israel has a right to exist. This is more demonic than democratic. It is proof of extremism corroding our culture. Okay? So let's talk about what's going on, all right? Let's talk about the latest flashpoint, what happened in Minnesota, how they caught this guy, what they've learned about him, and what it teaches us about what's going on. NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Enton is outside the home of two of the victims, Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. Details on what exactly was the plan here. Brian, thank you for being there for us. What do we know?
Yeah, Chris, I've been covering the manhunt for 2 days. This is my first time outside Representative Hortman's home. It's so sad to be out here. Think about what happened. It's all boarded up. All the front windows are shot out. The garage is shot out. You can see the boards behind me. This is where the representative was murdered along with her husband and their golden retriever. Right where I'm standing is where the suspect's fake police car was parked, right in this area. We learned today that the investigators found 3 AK-47s in the fake police car, along with a manifesto. There were at least 40 names and addresses. He was working his way down the list, Chris. He went to 4 houses of lawmakers in Minnesota. We learned that today. 2 of them weren't home, thankfully. He started at Senator Hoffman's house, though, shot the state senator, shot his wife. They both somehow miraculously survived. The state senator was shot 9 times. His wife was shot 8 times. They were in surgery. They're going to be okay. But this entire community is still just trying to, take all of this in, especially this neighborhood, Chris.
And the best sense of the motivation?
It appears to be politically motivated right now. He apparently had something against Democratic lawmakers who were pro-choice. There's this interesting text message we got today. He sent his wife and kids a text on a group chain the morning that he was on the run. So yesterday morning around 6:30, it says, "Dad went to war last night. I don't want to say more because I don't want to implicate anybody."
What happened in court today?
Yeah, so he was in federal court. It's now federal charges, murder charges, 2 murder charges, also stalking charges, no bond. It was weird to see him in court. I sat pretty close to him. He was he was in the orange jumpsuit, no handcuffs or shackles, I noticed. Answered the questions professionally. He said he had read over his criminal affidavit, but it's just sort of weird looking at him. You've seen the picture of him in the latex mask when he went to these houses, which was just so creepy today to just see him sitting there looking like a normal guy.
That's because he thinks what he did is normal. Because he believes that all of these extreme ideas and this absolute perversity of humanity is what happens these days. That's why he doesn't seem to feign any kind of shock or sense of recognition or shame. He doesn't have any. Brian, thank you so much for the reporting. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, great. And I don't want Brian to have to own this, but I'm telling you something that I wish weren't true, but I know it is. We're going to see more of this because it's okay. That's why. Until we come together and reverse this feeding of extremism and just constantly reinforce that it's not okay. It's not what we're about. It's not who we are. It's not what we allow. It's what we punish. Until we do that, until we undo what got us here, you're just going to keep seeing it. And by the way, these aren't even the real bad guys. You don't think the extreme Islamists are seeing how weak we are and working people online to radicalize them? And they're going to do their own dastardly things, and soon, especially after Israel kicked the hornet's nest? Stay tuned. Let's bring in Republican member of Congress Mike Lawler and former member of Congress, but very important to have tonight, from Minnesota, Democrat, ran for president against Joe Biden, okay? Flashing the alarm that the Democratic Party needed to do things differently, Dean Phillips. Now, first of all, Dean, thank God you're okay. Thank God this guy was not as effective as he was infected with extremism. You were on that list. What did it mean to you when you learned about it? And Tell us.
Well, first, I'll answer your question, Chris, but let me start by giving you a little hope. The man on your left on your screen, I love, Mike Lawler. I served with him in Congress. He and I were leaders of the Problem Solvers Caucus. And he is the type of guy that if he were in the White House right now, I know he would be acting quite differently, and the tone and tenor of politics would be remarkably different. Whether the Republican Party would elevate a Mike Lawler, I'm not sure. Whether the Democratic Party would ever elevate someone like me, I don't think so either. But I got to tell you, we have relationships. John Hoffman and Melissa Hortman were bipartisan, thoughtful, reasonable, common sense people, the best and the brightest. And I consider Mike Lawler to be among them as well. But Chris, when you ask about the question, what did it feel like? The sad truth is, and I know Mike can relate, is we're subject to this crap all the time. When I ran for president, the most expensive line item in my budget was for security. But this is not about me. I'm thinking about Colin, and I'm thinking about Colin and Sophie Hortman, who've lost their parents. I'm thinking about Hope Hoffman, a wonderful young woman whose parents suffered 17 gunshot wounds. This isn't about me. I'm used to it. But I'm thinking about my kids right now, and I'm thinking about all the people in our country, Chris, who aspire to help this country, who aspire to serve, who are now thinking twice about it because of creeps like the one that perpetuated these terrible crimes. And I'm thinking of them today, but I'm also optimistic, and I think it's time that people like Mike Lawler and me and others who know better start rising, and I just hope people start paying attention.
Look, I'll tell you something, Mike. Mike and I have talked about this on the show. We've talked about it off the show. I get the effectiveness of saying extreme things about the other side and how it whips people up and makes them scared, and that is powerful medicine in politics until it becomes a poison that's worse than whatever you're trying to treat. And I'm not blaming the right for this guy. That is meaningless. It doesn't matter. It could have just as easily been the left. But I do blame the dynamic between the two sides for making it okay to be extreme.
No question. Chris, let me start by saying I appreciate you having this conversation and very much appreciate sharing the screen with Dean. As he said, we are good friends and really tried to work together during my first term in Congress last year. He's certainly somebody who has been a leader on trying to bridge the divides within our Congress and our country. And I appreciate very much his leadership to that effect. I think you hit the nail on the head, though. The thing that most people were interested in was what was the shooter's party affiliation? What was his ideology? And that is, frankly, at the core of what is wrong here, because each side wants to use it as a political bludgeon against the other, as opposed to recognizing that this is a crisis that is infecting our politics, it's infecting our government, it's infecting our society. I can't tell you how frustrating it is as an elected official when you're trying to deal with serious issues, even if we disagree on an issue, but to try and find compromise, to try and find common ground. And the vitriol, the coarseness of our language, and all of us are guilty of it. There's no question about that. But this has gotten so out of control. And I can tell you, just in this Congress, the amount of death threats that have been leveled my way and that of many of my colleagues, the concerns that I have for the safety of my staff and my family have increased dramatically from when I first ran for office just a few years ago. And part of that is just obviously this political moment that we're in, and there's a lot of blame to be cast around. But if we don't get a hold of this as a country, both parties working to root out the extremism within, we're screwed. And I'll just make this one point. Part of this has to do with the fact that in the last election, only 35 of 435 congressional seats were decided by 5 points or less. And what that means is that most districts are not competitive. And so each
Yeah, they're
side is
safe.
playing to their base, they're playing to the extreme, and it is driving us further and further apart.
Yeah, and we reward it also. The media rewards it. You're going to be on TV more. You're going to get clicks. You're going to get a following. Works for podcasts. I get it. It just happens to be destroying the fabric of the country. I got to jump. You guys are welcome here whenever you want. Dean, thank God, you know, this guy was stopped when he was. I'm sorry for your friends. I'm sorry for the loss. But thank God you're here and you're always welcome. And Mike, thank you for being a fair broker. I appreciate you both.
Thanks, Chris.
Be well. Dean, we'll talk again.
Faith.
All right. Thank you, brother. Let's take a break. And I'll tell you what. I know when I look at my phone, you know what I'm going to see? It was kind of boring. I wish that they would. Don't feed it, fight it. If you're not satisfied with hearing two guys who are going to be part of the leadership of this country for like the next 15 years in some capacity or another, Dean's not done, Lawler's just starting. If what you want is to see them constantly trying to beat each other's ass, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Coming up, just moments before the show, the White House announced President Trump left the G7 abruptly. Why? To attend to many important matters. This was moments after he posted this to Truth Social. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Everyone in Tehran should evacuate immediately. What does this mean about the U.S. posture towards further hostilities? Let's discuss next. So the question is simple. What does this message from the president mean? The answer has existential ramifications. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. True. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Now, at a minimum, this seems to indicate that the United States president is aware that Israel is about to launch its next salvo. Okay, at a minimum, he is aware. All right? Now, the question is, aware on what level? And what does this mean about the United States? Because the idea that we don't own what Israel does to the regime in Iran is ignorant, to say the least, okay? Let's bring in two much better minds. Former State Department analyst for Republicans and Democratic administrations, Aaron David Miller, and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East, retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett. Gentlemen, thank you very much. ADM, what's your read on the United States' involvement and posture regarding the next phase of this?
You know, Trump opened the door, Chris, when on Thursday, he basically said to the Israelis, you know, I have doubts about what you're going to do in terms of unilaterally striking Iran, but I'm not going to say no. And then he persisted basically in becoming part of the Israeli deception, because part of the deception was to lull the Iranians to sleep, assuming that Witkoff and the foreign minister would meet yesterday, right, in Oman. The Iranians bought it, and the Israelis executed the beginning of a decapitation strategy against 9 nuclear scientists and physicists, head of the IRGC. Now he doesn't need to leave the G7. He could manage whatever crisis there is up there, but he's chosen not to. He's returning to Washington. He got one of two possibilities. He's made a decision to put his finger on the scales, or the words of one of my favorite country songs, One More Last Chance. This is coercive diplomacy at its best. He's going to basically say to Stephen Witkoff, offer Arachi another meeting. Remember way back in '91 when Jim Baker met Tareq Aziz in Geneva right before Desert Storm? It could be one of those meetings, but clearly for a guy who has consistently said, I don't want to get involved in this war, he may actually have taken the next big step toward it.
Of course, there's a third option, which he was bored at the G7, and I'm not insulting him. You don't know what what could have happened there that made him decide he want to leave. He's very easily offended. One more quick bounce question, and then I want to come to you, General. Thank you for your patience. The suggestion that the Israelis said, "Hey, we're going to try and take out the Ayatollah," and the president said, "No, you can't do that," and they said, "Okay, we won't." In your experience, is that how it works?
Well, first of all, there was only one experience, and I was in government, but I didn't experience it directly. And that's when George W. Bush met with the King of Saudi Arabia and Crawford, and the Saudis were incredibly worried that the Israelis, this was the spring of '02, incredibly worried that the Israelis were going to take Arafat out. And the Saudis literally threatened to walk out of the meeting if Bush didn't send the message that to the Israelis, don't do this. So, killing a leader, I'm sure the Israelis have in mind that that's something they do at the right time. Trump, I think, was wise to ward them off. We're going to see a much bigger fight, Chris, if they go after Fordo with these big, massive ordnance penetrators.
So, General, as we are on air here, the warning sirens are going off in Tel Aviv. I've been getting texts about it. That's what I just said it was. But I'm getting texts from people over there saying that this is probably precautionary because of what's happening before them. But, General, you were one of the first people I remember telling me in the war on terror that you can't kill an idea. The idea that you have a military win in situations like this is a little naive. Is that true about the regime in Tehran, that, you can get rid of the Ayatollah, you can wipe out the regime? It doesn't mean that the place just becomes an oasis.
No, I think, first of all, we're comparing Islamist terrorism and radical Islamic terrorism to what is going on inside the Islamic Republic of Tehran, of Iran. Fact is, I don't necessarily see it as a ideologically based organization. It's clear that it has an idea, but that ideology, which it is trying to promote is not trying to promote around the region. I just don't think that's a fair comparison. The Japanese had a militarist ideology. We took care of that. The Germans in World War II had an ideology. We took care of that. And candidly, I think that this state actor of Iran, you can certainly end the Iranian regime and the Ayatollah and this view of Shia Islam that they have.
General, do you believe that the United States has to be ready to be attacked for what is happening between Israel and the regime? And do you believe military action from the United States is in any way advisable?
Well, number one, I believe what the Iranians have said, which is that they will attack American personnel, installations, and facilities, and our allies in the region. That's what they say. So I think the evacuation of some of the embassies, I think the forward positioning of more military assets is the right and prudent thing to do on the basis of deterrence and the basis of defense. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to act on any of those preemptively, but I would say that if the Iranians do, in fact, try to attack those and kill American assets, that we have not only a right but a responsibility to respond.
All right, gentlemen, let's see what happens tonight. We'll circle back after it. I appreciate you both very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Aaron David Miller, General Kimmett, thank you both. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. When we come back, I want to bring two women on, Iranian descent. And I want to ask them about now what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happens after this? From the perspective of the people of Iran. Remember, I even made this mistake. It's not about Iran. It's about the regime that is oppressing the people of Iran, okay? And these two women have two very different opinions, and I think they're both very good food for thought. Next. don't know why any Israeli media source would report that the United States is attacking the regime. There is no indication of that. The White House says it's not true. The Pentagon says it's not true and has put out statements. Why they would say that, I have no idea. But there are going to be more attacks. And we hear the bomb sirens going off in Tel Aviv, which means they are going to be ready for responses, and there will be responses. Now, where does this lead? You have to separate the regime from the people on the ground who are going to pay a price for the regime. They've already been paying for it, right? Today, Israel expanded its list of targets, even went after Iran's state broadcaster known as IRIB. Take a look.
آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود استادیوم.
Yep. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has urged Iranians to rise up and reclaim their country in what appears to be a call for regime change. Is that just a farce? And what would happen if the regime were to fall? Would that definitely be a good thing? Maybe a more complicated answer than you think. Let's bring in two Iranian-American women with very different takes on the end game of this conflict. Iranian-born businesswoman and lawyer Mandana Dayani, and Iranian-American human rights lawyer Gisu Nia. It's good to have you both. Mandana, you've been on before, no?
Yes.
All right, good. You know, I'm old. You got to help me out. I'm old. Now, I am happy on one level that the plight of the Iranian people is back in the media. The way it has come back is very dangerous for people on the ground and very unfortunate. Mandana, what do you believe happens here that can be good for the Iranian people?
I mean, look, again, I was born in Iran under this current regime. The Islamic Republic is a threat to the stability of the entire world. They have held my people hostage for nearly 50 years. The level of human rights violations they commit is not a number that you can count. The fact that I was forced to chant as a child, death to Israel, death to America every day, is something not that they believe, but it is their policy. And I have learned to take these people seriously when they say that their policy is to obliterate you. So I do not know what comes after this regime. It is up to the Iranians to have a say in their leadership. We must put agency back in their hands, and an international free and fair referendum is what the Iranian people deserve. But I don't know how they will have a chance to have that voice under this regime who suppresses them and throws them off of buildings and murders and rapes them when they dissent. And so the only hope I have for the Iranian people is their freedom again, to choose their next steps.
Gisu, how do you see it? And what do you make of what the situation is on the ground for the Iranian people during this?
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for having me on. My voice is gone because it's been a day of a lot of speaking, a lot of talking, a lot of messages from family, friends, people trying to evacuate Tehran. District 3, where my aunt's house is, was issued an evacuation order. There's 300,000 people there. There's no gas. People cannot get out of Tehran, and they hear bombs everywhere. When we're on the phone with them, we hear the bombs. It is a heavy, heavy time. The initial strikes, there was some euphoria among some Iranians to see regime officials killed. That has quickly shifted into a lot of fear, a lot of concern, a lot of panic around what is happening because civilian areas are being targeted and being hit. So it's a very heavy time. In terms of what the end game is, I'm concerned because I don't think the end game is clear at all. We heard that Netanyahu has some regime change rhetoric. There's been some discussion around that, but are there going to be boots on the ground? The last regime change operation that happened through aerial means was Libya, and we see where that's ended up. There has to be boots on the ground to try to install somebody like Reza Pahlavi, the son of the deposed monarch. That was the approach that the US took in Iraq and Afghanistan with Ahmed Chalabi and Hamid Karzai. So there has to be boots on the ground for that to actually happen. So is that what is happening? I don't think any of this is clear. And I think Iranians, even the ones who are ardently anti-regime, are starting to realize that they might be in for a lot more than they initially thought.
The problem is you name two failed nation states. You look at Iraq and you look at Afghanistan, you look at Libya, you look at the Arab Spring. I mean, for all the promise and all the hype, it's hard to argue that we've seen anything like what was discussed. Mandana, real quickly, I don't see the United States getting involved militarily here. I don't think that there's any upside in the president's mind. Does it matter if the United States stay out?
I mean, look, I think that their goal is for Iran to come back to the negotiation table and to,
Right.
I mean, again, we're very afraid of this war, as we should be, because war is horrible. And I grew up under war and I understand to some extent how bad and painful it is. But a nuclear Iran could be the most terrifying thing of all. And so I believe that the goal is to get Iran to disarm. And I don't know. I can't imagine that America is going to send, the US is going to be sending boots on the ground, that they want to engage in a war. We understand, and Trump has repeatedly said that that is not a policy that he wants to engage in. I think it's still very early, and yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Would you trust any deal, Gisu, that the regime entered into to monitor its enrichment?
I've been a long-time proponent of human rights in the country, and I don't think that things were centered in the right way when it comes to any kind of negotiation. I think the nuclear file has too often been the focus. What we really need to focus on is how to bring human rights to the people, have human rights benchmarks in any kind of negotiation. That never happened. It's still not happening. But what we're dealing with is if we really want to take out, if the US really, or Israel really wants to take out nuclear capability, they're going to have to deal with Fordo. And in order to deal with that, you need a bunker buster bomb and potentially boots on the ground. So my question is, how is this going to be achieved? I think we see oil refineries are being hit now. Other targets are being hit. Sedai Sima, IRIB, as you said. So I'm not clear on the scope. But I think a lot of Iranians who initially were maybe excited to see some regime officials killed are seriously starting to wonder where this goes and where it ends.
It's also unfortunate because one of the most valuable resources in the country is wasted, and it's women like you that they could have uplifting and empowering and have an entire generation of people that could add to the collective fortunes in that country. And instead, for really backwards reasons, they stifle it. And that's why we are where we are. Let's see what happens next. Thank you for the perspective from both of you. We will continue the conversation. You both know how to get me. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, take care. Gisu, Mandana, thank you. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. What do you think? I want your feedback. 844-968-7720. Do you believe that I'm telling you guys to abandon your political beliefs in favor of some vanilla form of patriotism? Is that what you think my message is? Let's talk about it. Really, let's get after it. All right, Dusty, who do you got?
We've got Mary Lou from Oklahoma.
What's your question, young lady?
I would like to know why you don't ever acknowledge the fact that Donald Trump incites the violence. He's the first president we've had who has called out violence, called people names. So I'm just curious.
Well, he's not the first, but he could be the worst. And I say it all the time. Look, here's the problem. If you are somebody who is anti-Trump, it's never enough for you. I have to check everything he says and condemn him all the time in every way. And the problem with that is that it's exhausting, first of all, and it's completely counterproductive. People in this country know who President Trump is, what his strengths are, and what his weaknesses are. He is a known quantity. Our extremism in our politics, he is a beneficiary of it. but he is not the sole source of it. I do not accept that. Next.
Next, we're going to go to Michael from South Carolina.
Yeah, hi,
Michael,
Chris.
what's your question?
I just want to say something before the question. Iran has not started a war for over 300 years. The fact that they're in support of the Palestinian rights makes them the good guys, and we're the bad guys for not doing the same thing. So I don't understand why.
No way. No way. Iran has been working through its proxies. I mean, that is such a false premise, what you just said, that they haven't started a war. All they do is fund and motivate violence towards Sunni outfits, except for Hamas, because they hate the Jews more. It's the enemy of the enemy. And they say death to America, and they use proxies, and they come after us every way they can for a reason, okay? They are not the good guys. They will never be the good guys. Next.
Let's go to break, and we'll do one on the other side of the break if we have time.
All right. I'm going to go to break. We'll do one on the other side. Look, when it comes to extremism, the mandate is simple, okay? Don't feed it, fight it. We'll be right back. All right, one more quick call. Quick.
From Dave from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
what's your question?
You are bringing us together and reuniting us. Do you believe the Democratic Party senators and congressmen should be doing their jobs correctly, which I believe is getting together with the Republican Party and having meetings with them to talk about the things they need to get fixed in a better way instead of starting and being in protest?
Yes. But look, you can do both. Protest what you don't like, argue about what you don't believe in, but make deals that benefit your constituents. The problem is that you have like a 97+% reelection rate, even though nobody likes Congress. So what does that tell you? That means that when there are no seats that are really competitive, you got to just play to the base. That's how you stay in power. And that's the problem. We've got to break out of this extreme thinking. Don't feed it, fight it. Leland Vittert starts right now.
Term limits, right? Age limits, and no trading of stocks would change a lot, wouldn't it, Cuomo?
No trading of stocks should be a given. The other two are very hard because unless you did it through some kind of parliamentary procedure that they had to volunteer into, you'd need a constitutional amendment.
Yeah, well, funny, 80% of Americans are demanding it, and Congress won't give it to us. There you go.
They should have a constitutional convention.
Yeah, there you go.
Constitutional convention. Great coverage on Saturday, by the way. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.